Welcome to the podcast.
All right.
Pilates for PTs, from business to clinical. Hi y'all, my name is Stephen Dunn. I co-own Core Therapy and Pilates in Austin, Texas, and I'm the founder of Pilates for PTs. I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years, and I've been teaching Pilates and Jared Tyler in my physical therapy practice for the last 15 years. In this podcast, I interview experts from all over the world so that you can learn more on how to grow your business or how to improve your clinical skills as a Pilates instructor in the physical therapy world. Thanks for listening.
We'll hit record too. Boom. All right, so hello, good people. We're going to talk all things podcasting today. I'm Jared Aguilar, physical therapy student, CrossFit coach. We got my man Tyler here.
And then right across the table, Stephen Dunn right there. He looks like he's in a different,
Yeah, we're like shaking hands right now. That's right. That's right. Hey, guys, welcome to the group. Today, we're going to do a fun recording, or tutorial, I should say, about a podcast. And I got Jared and Tyler here. They are physical therapy students here in Austin, about to graduate in a couple months in August, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's close. It's getting close. And they're the home stretch. And they set up a podcast about a year ago. And through this podcast and through social media and through the internet, I know these guys. And I didn't know these guys at all other than through this community of people who were all out putting themselves out there, getting their content out there, trying to serve their community in better ways and new ways. And so I've gotten to know these guys now over the last, we'll say, month or so. And we just got together and filmed a podcast on their podcast, Ducklegs, right? Ducklegs.
Yep.
And they did a podcast with me on kind of my story. And now I want to do a podcast with them, or basically a tutorial with them, because every time I interview someone on this group, every time I bring Tim on to do a tutorial, whatever I've done, that is going to eventually turn into a podcast. And so right now, I don't know what to do with the content that I have. I have about 6 or 7 episodes where they're about 30 to 40 minutes. And I know these guys know a lot more about podcasting than I do, so I wanted to bring them in to share their knowledge, share what they've learned over the last year, and kind of their story of one, what got them to doing this, and then how they can help us. Any of us that have content, what do we do with it? Where do we take it? What platform do we put it on? How do we get it to iTunes? That kind of stuff. So with that said, I would love for you guys to just tell us a little bit about why you decided to start a podcast in PT school.
Yeah, so, pretty straightforward. Tyler and I were both big podcast nerds. And
still
very much. Out. And I think it was just, we were in probably the halfway point of physical therapy school. And we're like, man, we're listening to a bunch of physical therapy podcasts. We're listening to myself comedy podcasts. That's how we get some news information, what's going on in the world. And we thought, how about we start one? And it can be us students chatting, networking with people that we admire, people that we look up to, people who we're trying to emulate. And it's a much easier sell for us to be to reach out to somebody online and say, hey, can we host you on a podcast? We can promote your stuff, your courses, maybe you as a consultant, and we can chop it up for an hour, as opposed to, hey, can we just talk for an hour? And we were like, oh, that makes sense. It's a really cheap and sly way to network with a bunch of people and to just get our own names out there. And we're really just doing it for ourselves.
Yeah, the at this point, the podcast is a pretty selfish thing, but there's so much information that comes, just things that you may have never been exposed to before, and you learn for the first time, or maybe stuff that you've heard again, but then someone like Steven, who's somebody you respect, brings up a book. He says, this is a book that I read that changed my life. And you go, damn, I really do need to read that book. So there's all sorts of, there's just countless little things like that can come with it.
And with this podcast, it's exactly what you said. You get to reach out to people that you don't know and say, hey, let's have a conversation because you offer something to the audience that I am building of value. And that's exactly what I did. The first person I reached out to my podcast was a guy named Sean. And Sean has a consulting business where he teaches Pilates studios, all kind of consulting things. And he's someone that's kind of doing the same thing that I'm doing. And someone would say, well, why would you bring him on? Because I learned from him. Yeah. He learned from me. We just had a conversation for 45 minutes from a place of authenticity, from a place of being human and not competing with each other. Yeah. And some people are going to resonate with me. Some people are going to resonate with him. But I hope that everyone that watches that video was going to get some little tidbit of information. Now, he may get business out of it. I may get business out of it, but it doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. And so when I approached the people that way of this is why I want to bring you onto I didn't say it as a podcast, but it's basically like it's going to become a podcast. Yeah. I've let them all know that. It becomes very easy. And then it's a matter of who do I want to talk with? Who do I want to learn from? Who do I want in my circle that's going to continue to allow me to grow and allow me to learn from? And this just makes a lot of sense. And I'll tell y'all real quick, Dr. Jared Carter interviewed me for a podcast about 3 years ago. And at that time, it was before I had switched to an insurance model. And I just didn't see the importance of it or the value in it. I did it for him because he asked me, but he sent me the link and I never even listened to it for like years. And now I have this link that I'm like, oh, I got this great podcast. I need to make sure I do something with
this. This is my content.
Exactly. So I have a different mindset now because I've changed my mindset versus where I was when I was chasing my tail, taking insurance. I was just trying to survive. And now I have the ability to like, I would have never wanted to be doing podcast or doing a group or any of that
Taking
stuff.
selfies.
Exactly. Being on video, I wouldn't want to do any of that because I didn't have the time for it. And I didn't think it was important. But now, 2018, it's a totally different world. And for me, I didn't figure it out till 2016. So I'm glad I did. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about the process of how do you take your information? How do you get your information? How do you word it when you're reaching out to someone? Let's start with that. How do you word it when you reach out to someone that you want to communicate with them or have them on your podcast? And then what's the channels that you take that information and then get it to your platform?
So I'm going to jump in first because Jared's going to do primarily talking this, but I know he won't say this about it, is Jared is extremely grateful whenever he's reaching out to someone. He's extremely thankful for their time. Without a doubt, there's this, whatever works for you. Someone says, I only have 20 minutes. It's always this thank you. So that's the first. He won't tell you that he does that, but you better believe Jared's always saying thank you for the time and come at it. Maybe because we're students, we're doing that, but we definitely come at it as a respectful, I appreciate everything.
Gratitude. Baby.
Yeah. Gratitude. Yeah. Okay. But I'll let you talk about it.
I think that's it. I think if you're coming from a place of gratitude, I don't think you can lose. Yes, especially because we're not paying anybody to be on our podcast. So it's definitely, hey, you only have 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes. Thank you. That's perfect. That's what we're looking for. So just hitting, as Gary Vee likes to say, slide in the DMs, hit somebody up, direct message, however you can get in touch with them and say, hey, we have a podcast. We'd love to chat with you. Hopefully you've done some research on the person. So you're not just like, I think you do like Jared Tonics, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
So maybe throw in a little gem of like, I also know you happen to like dogs or you're a Jets fan, right? Throw that in there along with your gratitude, a little something special about them you can relate to, and then just compliment the shit out of them, right? And not just compliment just for compliment's sake, but compliment sandwich, try to show them value, right? You're coming as a podcast, you're reaching out to somebody usually where they have all the leverage and you're just asking from a place of gratitude, right? So whatever kind of value that you can show them, be like, we have this many listeners, or our audience is primarily people that work with Pilates clients. Give them that and say, hey, we can provide you with this much value. It may not be a lot, but hey, it's something.
Yeah.
And there is definitely times that we reach out to people when something big is about to happen in their career. They're about to release something. They've recently released something. Those are definitely if you're following someone and they're talking about them doing something. That's a really good time because they're looking to market and put something out there. So that's a good time to strike. But yeah, just a lot of instant or direct messages. Slide up in the DMs.
Slide in the DMs.
Yeah, I love that. Have people been mostly receptive? Have you met the people that are like, what the hell are you talking about? What's that all about? Or most of the people that you're reaching out to, because you kind of have a little history about them, you kind of know that that's something they're already involved with.
Oh, yeah. And it's just from interacting with people online, you kind of have that vetting process. So most of the people, pretty much 99% of the people that we reach out to are totally willing. And the only reason that we don't get them on the podcast is scheduling, and we just have to keep cycling back. But most of the people we can schedule within like a 2-month time span. Yeah. We've only had one person so far who's still super nice, and we interact with online, but turned us down just because he didn't really want to put his thoughts out there in the public sphere.
He'd done plenty of podcasts already. He's like, look, I'm kind of burnt out on that right now.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I had one example where I had set up to do a podcast or do a video with someone, and we ended up setting up, okay, yeah, we can do it this time, and then I emailed back, and she didn't respond to me for 2 weeks, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I lost your email in the shuffle. And then it took me about 10 days to reply to her because it was coming in it was already off my mind and plate because it'd been several weeks that when I then reached out to her, she came back with attitude.
Oh,
and because her ego came out, and she's like, well, until you get your shit together, I'm just going to hold off. And I just said, well, there's no reason to hold off. Your name's off the list. There's no reason for us to ever talk again, lady, because I don't need one. I'm grateful that I didn't interview you and put my audience through your negative energy and bullshit. And that was the only time that's happened. And I'm pretty new to doing this. I've only had like 6 that I've done, and that was one. I was like, wow. But it is what it is, and that goes back to everything we've been talking about in y'all's podcast earlier is ego, and this is someone that had a lot to offer to the community, but she was more interested in what she was going to gain out of it, and she was more interested in the fact that it took me 10 days to reply to her email than when it took her 2 weeks to reply to mine. And I'm like, if that's all you're worried about, then I just don't want to waste my time with you. So that's where I've learned, where kind of like that vetting process, like what I'd been seeing about her online, I really liked. But there she was. Her human side came out. I had nothing. I didn't want anything to do with it. So that was just an interesting thing. So I'm learning along the way. That's why I asked.
There you go.
Question.
Yeah. There you go.
So what do you do next when you get your information? You do your podcast. Y'all do it through Zoom.
Yeah.
You record your information. What's the next step from there?
So from there, that's the crucial steps, right? For podcasting in general. You need a microphone. We're using a USB microphone, real cheap, like $100 on Amazon if you want kind of a medium end one. Zoom, that's what we're using to record. We're using the free version there, so that's going to save you some money there. Audacity is a free sound editing software that you can just download. You go to audacity.com, find it on Google. So you can save a bunch of money right there. You don't need to spend money on editing the sound waves that you download from Zoom, and you don't need to spend money on your recording equipment because you can just use Zoom for free. So we're on Zoom right here, and when Steven and I are done with this, we'll just go and we'll end the meeting, and as soon as you end the Zoom meeting that you are recording with, the MP3 file will just be downloaded to your computer in your Zoom folder. And
automatically. You
don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is hit the record button on the Zoom software. And if you need a Zoom tutorial, Steven can hook you up with that.
Yeah.
The only caveat with using the free Zoom is that you're only allowed 40 minutes of free recording time. But
that's where I'm unlimited. That's where I pay $15 a month, and I've taught 3-hour courses on it.
Nice. but if you're not a big baller, if you're just some students, you can just send somebody another link on Zoom.
Yeah.
Hold on. Here's another Zoom link. We'll do 40 minutes. So 2 different ways to handle that. But yeah, so you've got your microphone. You've done a great interview with a great guest on Zoom. You ended the meeting. You've got the audio file. You can take it to Audacity right then and there. Because I actually use a different sound editing software that I had previously. I don't know if this applies to Audacity, but you may need to convert your MP3 file. No, sorry. It's an MP4 file, I think, that Zoom converts it as.
Yeah.
So you need to find a recording, converting software. I use Wondershare converter, and that'll convert it to an MP3 file. And once you have something like that, you can literally do anything you want, whether it's take a video, turn it to MP3, or any kind of thing you want to do to turn your videos into podcast material. I'm sure there's also some free equipment online to do that, but I just use Wondershare. I think that was like $80.
Got it.
But nonetheless, you've got your MP3 file. You're in your Audacity or your sound editing software. Boom. You've chopped up the coughs. You've put your little intro in your outro, and you've got all the good material there. So now you got the final product. And where do you go from there? We take it to, and here's where I can screen share. We take it to Anchor. The Anchor app is what we use for our podcast hosting and distribution. It's free. Let me see if I can share my screen now.
So as you're doing that, just something I'm going to plug in is Jared and I have a pre-recorded beginning that he was talking about, that it's already saved on his computer. When he goes into his software editing, just throws it in there. And then at the end, we also have an ending that you put it into. So you don't have to technically even do that.
No, that's just if you want to get fancy.
That's if
Did
you want to
y'all
get
create
fancy.
that on the same software, Audacity software, or was that created somewhere else?
Yeah, you can.
Intro files.
So for our intros and outros, luckily we have a friend that is a music producer.
Yeah.
And he just has some beats. So we just go to, hey, this is Jared and Tyler, and we just put that over a beat, and then that's our intro. Very minimalist. Funny enough, for our podcast, it's called Ducklegs. We do have a clip of one of our guests talking about that quote that we base our name off of. So that's if you want to get that cute and creative to make your intro, however you want to do it, it's real easy. It's just an audio file with your words, and then put it over some music.
So it's kind of like when I make a video, I have my logo intro at the beginning of my video.
Yeah,
it's the same as like using iMovie for that.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You can always pay somebody $5 on Fiverr too.
Yeah,
you can always do that.
Use Fiverr. I've been a fan of that.
So, and let me know, Steven, can you see the Anchor website?
Yeah, I got it. All there.
This has been a real game changer for us, because if you want to have a podcast, and if you want your podcast to be available for download and subscription on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcast Addict, what are some other places that you go?
You really did knock out the big ones. I mean, the biggest ones are the Apple one and Spotify. Those are the two biggest ones. And then you have your Android users that.
And we can get into Spotify later, but all of your other favorite podcasting platforms, if you want to be on there where people can listen to you, you have to have a place where you can go where a program can host your podcast. The most popular one right now is probably Libsyn.
Yeah.
If you're big in the podcast world, you've probably heard of Libsyn before. Podbean is another one. Podomatic is something that we've delved in before, but we didn't really dig Podomatic too much. But anyway, basically that Libsyn and Anchor, they host your podcast, and they'll distribute your RSS feed to iTunes and Google Play and all that stuff. That's how that works. That's really the only way how you can get your podcast on iTunes and et cetera.
One of these platforms.
Through one of those hosting platforms, podcast hosting.
And Anchor's free.
Yep.
Yeah.
And getting it onto iTunes is free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
And Anchor's coming up in a big way. It's kind of the new dog in town, right? And it's kind of busting through a lot of the doors.
For sure. And I'm sure you might have heard Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're a Gary Vee fan, talk about Anchor and the power of voice. So before Anchor, we were using Libsyn. the cheapest listen plan is $5 a month, and that's for not too much space. So when we first heard of Anchor, when Anchor came out and said, hey, y'all, we are now allowing anybody to host their podcast with us and distribute it for free with unlimited storage, we as cheap students were like, yes, let's do it. So that's pretty much how the story how we became on Anchor. We love Anchor, and we can even show you how we go about using the app and website. So you can download it as an app on your phone, and you can also come to this website here. We'll go ahead and log in. So let's see. So you can go to the Anchor website. I think it's anchor.fm. You can go ahead and log in. And from here.
FM, that's a big one for me.
Yeah, I guess it's just that radio.
Okay, gotcha.
FM radio.
You coming in, Reese?
Shout out to the dogs.
Yeah, that's the first thing you said whenever I chimed in when you and Will were talking about, I'm in Austin and I'm looking for help. You're like, you're the dude with the dogs.
Yes.
That was the first thing you said. So
it's the dogs tight, get you in. They get you hooked.
That's right.
So I just want to mention this to Tyler. When we switched to Anchor, this is kind of a humble brag.
Yeah.
We already had like around 20,000 plays on Libsyn. So the numbers if you were to switch, if you're already hosting your podcast with the different platform,
it doesn't show that.
It doesn't show that. Yeah. So
you have with Anchor.
Yeah, so your ego might get hurt there, but that's all right. It's not about ego, right?
Ego, man, leave it at the door.
Leave it at the door. So here on Anchor, we have our podcast name here. We can see the total plays and plays per episode that we have on Anchor. They have some really cool stats here that they're continually building up. Overall podcast plays. You see some episodes that you have live in the queue right now. We just released one today, 4 hours ago. We have 39 plays on it. You can see that. You can see the time length. You can go here if you want to view more details or delete the episode or download it to your desktop. Fun fact: if you go here and click these dots and your episode is under 3 minutes, there's an option that you can go to click create an Anchor video, and what that is, it's a cool marketing tool. Unfortunately, I don't have any short episodes, but it's a marketing tool that Anchor will use like closed captioning and light the words up on the screen that play for that 3 minutes in an MP4 or video format, which you can use to distribute on Facebook to market your podcast.
Got it.
So that's a real cool thing. If you have a 3 minute episode or just clip you can put on there, you can see your episode downloads there. And another cool thing that Anchor shows here is how many people listen to your podcast and where. So you can see we have the iOS people listen on Apple, on the iTunes desktop, on Android, Stitcher, yada, yada. We even got one person bumping us on Alexa.
Sweet, man.
Don't know who that is.
Voice.
Yeah, the power.
We'll see how that changes. I'll be curious. According to Gary Vee, that's a number that should go up, right?
Yeah, man.
Right.
And we can show this in another tutorial of how there's even a podcast app or Alexa that we submitted to and we got on there. So now that's how we're available there.
Got it.
And we'll go to this button right here. You can see that we're available on 5 platforms right now. And this is the settings feature on Anchor. And
where's those jack legs? I've heard about the jack legs.
Yeah,
people coming. They're not here yet.
They'll get there. He's still a newbie. You can see those thin little duck legs. But here you can plug in your name, your podcast description, what category you're in. You can plug in your website, if you want to use your own name and your email address. Where can your podcast be heard? Here. So in order for Anchor to distribute your podcast to platforms, you'll need to host with Anchor. You can click here. They have some great tutorials on there and how to actually do it. But you can see we're on the links. We have the podcast, Pocket Cast, Google Play Music, Apple Podcasts, and what else do we have here? Boom. So what you need, what's going to be gold for you right here is the RSS feed. This is what you need, and you don't need to use Anchor. you can use Libsyn or any other hosting service.
You're going to get an RSS feed.
You'll get an RSS feed, and it'll be Libsyn or Anchor, Ducklegs, whatever the RSS feed. This is what you'll use to go to Google Play Music or iTunes. You'll import that, and then iTunes will go through the review process, and you'll be on iTunes in a week or so.
Takes about a week.
I think it might take about a week. I think that's what they tell you. I can go double check that. It's been a while since we submitted.
It's been a while since submitted, but I mean, you'll spend that time editing. We got, what would we get, about 5 episodes, and then before we released our first one, probably around kind of the amount of content you have.
Yeah.
We also sit on episodes. So, you know, sometimes sometimes we don't release them as quickly as we like to, but I think it's a good strategy to have some content already there, because if times get crazy, you get busy, it's Christmas or something.
Some's there.
You've got it on deck, and you can just upload it. It's already there.
Because as we all know, the most important thing is consistency, and it always makes me feel good that we're sitting on a bunch, so we can just casually drop one a week and still be consistent.
That's kind of like my blogs. I've got enough blogs now. I've got like 20.
Yeah.
You used to, I'd like have to do a blog to email it that week.
Yeah.
I got to do a blog send email it that week. Now I've got 20 blogs, 25 in the queue that I get to choose from when I send my email out on how I feel at the moment that are already done based on stories that's happened in the clinic that week, instead of just what can I come up with right now. So I understand what you mean by that.
Oh yeah. And here, just so you have that MP3 file that we talked about earlier, you're just going to click new episode on Anchor, go to upload, and Anchor's so cool that if you don't want to use Zoom, or say you don't have time to log into Zoom, you can just record it right here and now on the Anchor app. You don't even need to use Zoom.
Got it.
You can browse, which is what we'll do. You'll browse previous MP3 files that you've saved on the computer. You can even add like transitions and leave voice messages. Even if you have it on the app, you can connect the Anchor app with your Spotify and even somehow play Spotify music that's on Spotify. So if you want to put like some Black Keys in your podcast, you can do that and not face copyright laws. I don't know how Anchor is doing that, but I think it's available. So
because Black Keys, they like their royalties.
Yes.
They're in every commercial. At least they were for a few years in every dang commercial out there.
For sure. You in there?
I think I
changed the microphone again.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
It's popping out.
Oh, that's what happened.
Here you go.
Oh, sorry, it popped out. Now we're back though. So you can just click here and then go find any MP3 file that you had. Let's see if you want to use this one. We'll use this. We'll use a little clip that we had with a physical therapist talking about the importance of waking up early. Boom, we've got it there. We're going to save episode. And here, before we publish it, we get to title it. So say like the importance of waking up early with Dr. Brian. Hope I remember spelling her name right.
Her last name's impossible.
Yeah. Brian Showman Brown. And then in the description, for time's sake, we'll just do, here's a fun clip from a great episode with the Queen of Discipline, Dr. Brian Showman Brown. And that's a little inside reference. And boom, all we have to do is hit publish. And then it'll show up in your feed and get sent to iTunes.
So once you publish it, it does all that.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything else. Once you get it published on Anchor, it goes to all of those places, unlike Dudley not wanting to come in here. So it's really, it's that
pretty easy.
Yeah.
And once you know how to use one software for video editing or kind of whatever you're doing, it's really kind of all the same. There's a few different steps there, but it doesn't seem like it's a challenge. So, and that's the beauty of the software today is it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah.
Because if an old guy who's been a PT for 20 years can figure this stuff out, and,
And I always encourage people, like, podcasts in general are kind of gritty, and they're meant to, on a certain level, have hiccups, and because it's supposed to be like really raw. So if anybody's like not sure about like making it perfect, if you go listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of them have a certain raw element to it. So you don't need to get too concerned with editing and all that stuff, because it's really not what the whole environment is about.
Yeah. Do not worry about being fancy.
Yeah,
sure.
Don't worry about perfect.
Yeah.
You said the word grit. I love. I'm a big LSU football fan, and our new coach Orgeron's a total Cajun, and he's a nut job too. And someone asked him, they said, well, "How do you define grit?" And he goes, "Well," and I can't imitate his
Cajun.
He's way more Cajun than I've ever even considered. But he goes, "Well, grit's defined where I'm from. When Mama says, 'Hey boy, go get supper,' she don't mean go get supper. She means go catch supper."
Good.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, that's just the perfect way of like kind of getting to understand his mindset. Come to dinner doesn't mean come to dinner. It means go catch dinner.
Go get your dinner.
Yeah, that's right. So
that's awesome. And if the people in the group want us to do another tutorial on how to actually submit your podcast to iTunes or to any of these places, really the only place where you have to submit your podcast for reviews: iTunes, Google Play, and I think that's it.
Those are the two big ones. You can do the Alexa, but those, they saw where our downloads are coming from.
Right.
People listen to it on Apple.
Yeah.
That takes over the desktop and the phone.
Yeah. And then the smaller apps like Podcast Addict and I think even Stitcher, they just get the feed from Anchor. You don't have to there's not another step.
So when you go into iTunes, you have to submit it to them on your own through a process through iTunes.
Yeah. For iTunes and Google Play, you have to submit your RSS feed separately.
But that's just one time, right?
Yeah, you just do it one time?
For each podcast.
Yeah.
No, just once.
Just once to make sure you're a legit podcast.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
That's
you don't have to submit every podcast. You just have to get into that. Nope. So like your first one, you kind of have to get approved. Is that kind of how it goes?
Just the feed.
And then, okay, so once your feed's approved, then you're able, once you do it all on Anchor, then it goes seamless. But it might take a week or so to go through the process.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just a one-time thing. You just submit your RSS feed to Google Play, iTunes, and once they set you up, boom, you're good to go.
Go ahead.
Anything you put on Anchor after that will be displayed across all those platforms.
And then once your podcast is live, like you put one live this morning, what are your next steps? Do you put it on Facebook? You have a Facebook page for your podcast? What's the kind of the next steps to get it out there amongst your audience that you already have versus the people that are going to stumble upon it, however they stumble upon it?
Yeah, so that's the hard part, the tricky part, right? When people say, yeah, you spend an hour creating content, now you need to spend like 6 hours distributing it or whatever, right? So that's the interesting part, and the part that we're still learning of how to be a better marketer and distributor. So yeah, we have a Instagram, we have a Facebook page.
Yep.
We were on Twitter too. We're not big on Twitter now, but we still have a Twitter.
Yeah. Do you have a website for Ducklegs?
We did. We're remodeling it now because we didn't really like it. But we will have a website for sure. Website will be crucial, and we need to be better about that. But yeah, just sharing that on. If you want to share it on your personal Facebook, you can do a lot with Instagram as far as Instagram stories. Another cool thing I will share with you as well, once I get it up, is there's even little tools called Sparemin.
She's back.
She back.
Are you going to come in or not?
There's a tool called Sparemin where, just like we talked about a short anchor clip of 3 minutes, you can kind of turn it into a video with subtitles and such. There's a website called Sparemin where you can kind of do the same thing. Let's see if it'll load up for me.
Let's see if I can share my screen. The the idea when it really goes off well, it's like both parties share it on their personal page, share it on their professional page, and just get the juices flowing.
Yeah.
Just get it rocking and rolling out there.
That's one of the cool things about interviewing people with followings, that hopefully they can share your stuff and you'll just amass a greater following. But yeah, and there's even tools like Sparemin that you can upload your audio and it'll turn it into an audiogram. So you just upload your audio. Maybe you have a nice picture of the guest that you've made for such and such podcast, and this will turn it into a video, turn it into an audiogram, and then it's an easier item for you to distribute to Facebook. Now you have a waveform going across the picture. So
I saw that this morning on
yeah. So there's some cool things you can do with that. I think they even allow subtitles where they can it's an automatic subtitle generator so you can get more engagement on your videos.
So where are you making that little file from? Is that from Anchor?
No, this is called Sparemin.com.
Okay.
If you go to Sparemin.com, I think I'm sharing my screen now if you can see it.
I see it. Sorry.
Headliner.sparemin.com. So it's kind of the same thing that Anchor app allows, but there is a new feature they dropped on Headliner, so now you can do up to 2 hours of content.
And Jared, you can speak a little bit more on this. If you're like really like feeling not good about a lot of people maybe watching your podcast, you're like, I need more. It appears that people like 5-minute Facebook videos of your podcast versus listening to your podcast on the thing. So a few of our videos, you just saw our total view count was 25K of all the thing, how many downloads we have, yada, yada, yada. And for the however many episodes we have on Anchor. But a few of the stuff we released on Facebook will have upwards of 10, 15,000 views of a 5-minute clip.
Got it.
So if you are really looking to get those numbers up, Facebook, would you agree, Jared?
Yeah. Versions like the cliff notes of what the big podcast, take it into a few little.
Yeah, what Jared is showing you now, putting that on Facebook will definitely pump up.
And that's just a little. You're taking just a little clip of the podcast, so someone can hear it. They're seeing that little squiggly line to bring their attention to it.
They like that.
I saw that this morning. Whenever I was about to go for a walk, I wanted to listen to Jerry's podcast from yesterday about his new front desk certification. And as I was going through it, I saw y'all's, but I wasn't in a listening state at that point, but I just saw the lines. And I was like, oh, cool, I got a new thing. But I was like, oh, I'm going to see these guys in a little bit.
Yeah.
But then as I walked the dog, I put Jerry's podcast in and went on, or actually it was a Facebook Live from yesterday that will probably end up being a podcast for him. That's not yet. So that's cool, man. And that's, again, all these little bitty tricks. So it looks like a couple new softwares to use, a couple new websites to get involved with. But it sounds like they're all free or mostly pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, Sparemin is free as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so $100 on a microphone and a bunch of free options. And the reality is I think a lot of people in this audience that I have with my fitness instructors, a lot of them I think have some content that they just maybe hadn't thought they could turn into a podcast. And maybe they don't, and maybe it's just a matter of starting to think in a different way. But for me, the main purpose of me doing the interviews was to create a podcast. I didn't know how to do it or how I was going to do it. I just knew if I was going to get that content, I was going to put it on video and have YouTube videos and put it on the page, but I might as well eventually step up to 2018 and take that next step. So that's kind of why I wanted to get y'all here today to see the steps from someone who's been doing it, someone's learned along the way. And with that said, I really appreciate your time, guys. Is there anything else? What you tell our audience, the Pilates world, how to get in touch with your podcast and how to get in touch with you guys if anyone has questions. And anyone can comment in the group and we'll answer. But give out some information for your stuff, guys.
Yeah, I think I'm in the group too if you want to reach out to me, or we can talk more about this in the group.
We'll get you in the group too, Tyler.
Yeah, but our podcast is the Ducklegs Podcast, and we're on Facebook. We're at the Ducklegs on Instagram. And I think there's just a lot you can do as far as marketing and distribution. We kind of talked about a little bit, here. But if you want to check out what we do, just for if you want to get some creative insights, just the distribution wise, right? Making a little 15-minute clip of your 60-minute podcast, putting it on Facebook. On Instagram, it's even shorter. You have to chop up like a minute clip, or even 30 seconds if you want to put it on an Instagram story, even less than that. So there's a bunch of ways you can get creative with it. The tool Sparemin is really cool because you can put that waveform on it, and you can check around those websites, see what we did on our Instagram and Facebook.
Cool, man. I love it. Well, I appreciate y'all's time. We've now been together for about almost 3 hours, the three of us.
Yeah.
Again, I know when we get together at this point, we're just going to spend some time together. And I'm cool with that. The first time I invited Jared over, he literally was in my house for 5 hours with a bunch of strangers. Not true strangers, but strangers in the sense that we never met in person, any of us. Well, I'd met the other group, but Jared had never met any of us. So we literally spent 5 hours. We've been texting each other since. We've been learning from each other and learning how we can share the information that we have. Whenever Jared and Tyler showed up at my office to kind of, I just wanted to show them around, show them what we did, let them get an understanding of kind of how we run our business, because our niche is very unique. There's a lot of people doing things with the CrossFit world and the traditional PT model, the cash model, all hands-on, but we really have a unique model, and I love being around people who want to learn whatever it is. Whether, again, I'm not trying to turn anybody into a Pilates or gyrotonic person that's not, but I love that it doesn't matter what we do. We're all coming from the same place, and we can all learn from each other. And with that said, we're going to wrap it up for today. It's been a fantastic day. I'm excited. I got a lot of good positive things going, and shit, now I got to get to work on making these podcasts. So
Get it.
Now I got to do some action, right? So as I always talk about action. So guys, anything else y'all want to throw out, or y'all good for the day?
Just do it.
Just do it. I love it. I love it. Well, thanks for your time, gentlemen. And I wanted to call them young kids again, but I'm going to try to not do
That's
that.
all right.
How old are you guys? You just had a birthday.
I'm 27 now.
27.
Oh, yeah, I'm 27.
Are you 25?
I'm older. I'm 29.
29. All right. Well, I'm 44, so I got a little bit on both of you. So that means I've been out of college. I've been out of high school as long as you've been alive. So that's when it starts going.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 27 years ago yesterday was my graduation from high school.
Give it up.
Give it up for Facebook to be able to see that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
As I'm sitting there with my long ass mullet, hair down to here, I was like, oh God, that is not a picture I want on the internet, but there it was. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. We're going to wrap it up, and we will see y'all real soon. I'll get this information out to the group as soon as possible. Take care and have a great day, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you did, could you do us a favor and leave some love and write us a review? My name is Stephen Dunn. I help physical therapists incorporate Pilates into their physical therapy practice. If you would like more information on how you can incorporate Pilates into your physical therapy practice, then like my Facebook page, Pilates for PTs.